Hey Skyfarers, and welcome to Aethercast, where today we're talking all about points leaks and battle tactics from the new GHB. Crewing the good ship Aethercast for tonight's show, we have Thunderer from Down Under, Mr. Alexander Cron.
Hey, a lot of stuff going on right now. Pretty excited to get into it.
So much stuff we can't fit it all in one show. And also on the good crew today, we have our engine master to the Garden of Nurgle, Mr. Matt Barker.
How's it going, everybody? Lee, I see you still haven't learned your lesson. Let me back on again. Appreciate that.
It's becoming a running theme.
Yeah, you know.
It's been a while though. I think since we had you on the show. I mean, obviously there was a long time where we didn't have some shows, but
yeah, I missed the last one. But it's always great to be here. So
yeah, it's good. Always
exciting times.
Yeah, it is very exciting. The show is basically the news, I think. The show is some of the news, and then there's some news. Obviously, some stuff that we're not got time to talk about massively. Other than points for KO and battle tactics, is there anything you guys want to talk about that's happened recently?
It's happened recently. I'll be taking Kharadron Overlords to a local GT here in Southern California next weekend. It'll be the current or the old General's Handbook. Okay. And it'll be a lot of fun.
Cool. The last hurrah.
The last huzzah.
Good.
Yeah. Cool.
I think we've got a teams tournament in 2 weeks, and they want to use the new GHB.
Nice.
We don't even have the points to make lists yet officially, so
yeah,
interesting.
That may be tough without an FAQ too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless there's like a day one FAQ, you know.
I think that apparently there is.
Wow. Have you seen that Doc can bring back Morathy at the moment without an FAQ?
Oh dear.
That's stupid.
Just don't kill her. Just core mover.
I also love, Lee, how on this thumbnail here you've got like the -40, -30. Like it could be pumping out of the gun like -10, -10, -10, -10, like a machine gun just shooting points out of the sky.
Oh, I had to whet people's appetites with something. Cool. Well, there is some stuff. I want to give a shout out to Vince and Tom on Warhammer Weekly, because they did a good show about battle tactics, and I think I listened to that twice. I mean, it was about the whole GHB, but it was mostly battle tactics, and then they went sort of quickly through the battle plans at the end. I say quickly, I mean obviously there's 12 of them, so it took some time, but you know what I mean. It was like they talked about the battle tactics very in depth, and it was cool. So if you don't get enough about battle tactics from our show, go listen to them as well, because that was a good show.
And they break it down. They break it down really well. And I always love watching their shows. They had me on to talk about the 3rd edition KO Battle Tome, and they have a very, very broad audience. So it's always great to listen to those guys' points of view. Especially Tom. Tom plays all of my armies. He plays Kharadron Overlords. He plays Nurgle. He's a Spider Fang player. Those were my three main armies, and so I definitely a kinship there. Cheers to Tom.
Cool. And obviously, if you're in the live chat, say hello. We've got Osrek 1080 in there saying hi. Sibling Cities of Sigma Battle Force. Sad times for KO. Hope you bring some positiveness. Well, there is some positiveness. I'm guessing the sad times he's referring to is just some of the rules for shooting.
We'll see.
There is some
I reckon there's some positives.
I was gonna say. I think. No offense to the commenter there, but I think that's sort of like the immediate, like sort of like knee-jerk reaction is like shooting is dead, can't play shooting anymore. But if you sort of look into it, there's going to be some cracks to exploit.
Yeah, true.
For sure.
Okay. I mean, shooting is inherently powerful in the game and always has been. So as long as the points are right, it will always do fairly well. And there's some limitations to some of the things. We've also got Rembrandt in the chat. Hi too. But we've alluded to a couple of things, so let's jump into some of this. Some of the stuff that we had some leaks, basically, multiple leaks. Since the last show. So basically, pretty much every page of the GHB was shared. So we know all the battle tactics. I mean, obviously the book's out today anyway, isn't it? Although mine hasn't arrived, but it doesn't doesn't matter because we've got it anyway.
And then, of course, our scouts over in Barrack Mornar provided us some additional coverage through some unconfirmed sources, through the backwater back deal channels and sneaky spies, and provided us with that information too.
Yes, so there's a couple of some sources,
hot off the press stuff coming in
because
this
obviously
show.
there's the leaks for the GHB, which pretty much I think most people have seen. If you haven't seen them, it means you're just not on WhatsApp, I guess, or WhatsApp and Discord. So everyone's seen them. There was a bit of a mix-up with Games Workshop and content creators and when certain things could be released. So earlier in the week, there was some articles and videos from content creators that we know get stuff early. So obviously they put stuff out and then Games Workshop, oh no, it's the wrong day. And all the stuff got taken down. But anything from those places we can fairly certainly say is accurate. And then there's some other stuff, maybe a little bit more dubious. Maybe we don't necessarily know how reliable it is. But we're just when we get to it, we'll discuss that a bit more, like which is which. So we've got some stuff. We'll start with this, like the GHB stuff that isn't battle tactics. That's just general for the game over. So, oh no, we won't. I put things in the wrong order.
Well, if we're talking,
points.
Well, there we go. I was going to say, and well, if we're talking general, one thing that I think is really interesting is that we're going back to Ghyran for this General's Handbook. Obviously, if you're an OG Age of Sigmar player, Ghyran, the Realm of Life, was the setting for Age of Sigmar in first edition. Obviously we did a couple of realms before after that, but it's interesting that we're kind of going back to Ghyran but with full-fledged realm rules, which is really interesting. But the second time Age of Sigmar has been in the Realm of Life setting.
Or just staying in Ghyran. We've been in there a while now. I mean, 3 GHBs is this now? I don't know.
It's been in Gur.
For the most part. Gur was third edition.
Gur, baby, very Gur.
They both begin with G. Okay, we've got points chased on the screen because I forgot I put them first. So we'll talk about those. So on your screen, points changed with an asterisk next to them we know are from a reliable, definite source. Like basically, we know they're from content creators that get stuff early, so they wouldn't put an article out with those points in if they're wrong. And then all the others are collected from various unnamed sources, which you could take with a pinch of salt. However, I would say that one of the content creators that get things early basically said some stuff that hinted towards what was happening. They said things like all the units went down except for the gun hauler, which kind of matches up with this. And things like that. So there's the specific points we've got match up with unspecific things we've got from content creators. So that makes them fairly reliable.
I'm very confident in our Mornar spies to collect accurate data, but yes, they're unpublished points adjustments. Definitely.
I mean, we're confident enough to put them in a show.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I mean, we're getting it on Tuesday or Wednesday, probably. So
the 11th, right? Is it the 11th?
The 11th, yeah, whatever day the 11th is.
It'll be in a Battlescroll because a lot of armies are getting points hikes
Wednesday,
or
Thursday if you live in the New Zealand or Australia. Depending on the time of the day,
it'll be coming in the form of a Battlescroll only because a lot of armies are having points applied to faction terrain, and there's endless spells that are getting points cost. Some of the more powerful ones and artifacts, which we'll talk about.
And you mentioned enhancements. We do know as well that Cunning Fleetmaster is getting points. It's the only one that's been mentioned so far for KO, and I believe it's 20 points.
That's the one that everyone takes, I guess.
Oh, I mean, you can. What's really cool is that there's a website that is being hosted by my local TO, the Old Town Throwdown on Twitter. It's aos-events.com, and you can go to factions and see the number of games played with Cunning Fleetmaster, and it's something like 70% of all games for KO have Cunning Fleetmaster as their heroic trait, which is just. And then the only other one of significance is Endrin Maestro, and it's like, well, you're playing a Thunderclad or a Thunder or Heavy list, so. But Cunning Fleetmaster is far and away the most used trait, so it makes sense. They're just trying to pull the levers and push the buttons of equity.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of these points. Let's go overall first, because it's all green. Without getting specific, all green. And I guess what this means is on a typical list, you're getting anything to 100 points to 150 points.
So great.
Decrease.
I mean, you're getting like a free unit of Arkanaut Company, which got reduced as well.
Yeah, you basically a free unit of some sort, maybe up to like a gun hauler, depending on how many points you had spare in your list already. And
I think my list, my 24 Skyrigger 2 Frigate Brock list, went down like 120 points, like 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120. Yeah, it went down 120 points. It's great.
Depending on if Regiments of Renown go up or down, my Thunderclad list went down 150. So, like...
I think my list has gone down 140, and I think it had some points spare in it as well already.
Now, I have a question for the two of you. Why do you think that there is this wholesale reduction in points?
Because of obscuring terrain.
There it is.
We'll talk about it in more detail in a minute, but basically, it's going to be a lot harder to shoot things.
Is it because is it only because of obscuring terrain? Is it because KO's hovering in that low to mid 40% win rate? Is it a combination of both?
Didn't most armies get a similar reduction in points though? From what we've seen in articles, didn't they haven't most armies received this kind of points reduction, or is it just us?
Not this scale. Cruel Boys got a lot of green. Magakin got some. Magakin got reasonably more expensive, cheaper. I'm sorry, but again, I don't think that. I mean, 40 points on a single unit, although it is an ironclad, is.
You're never really taking more than one ironclad usually, unless you want to take 4 of them, because I'm ready for 4 ironclads. Rock up with an admiral and his fleet and just...
Yeah. How do you like this for Fleetmaster?
I guess it kind of works out to about almost a 10% reduction. Not quite, but I mean, if you like, when you've got a unit that's over 400, well, it was 500 points, you can't really give it a 10-point reduction. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't do anything. So, yeah, I mean, when you've got units pointed equivalently to other units being reinforced, you need to like increase the reduction, or else it just doesn't make any sense. Okay, so we've got big points reductions. We know there's some rules that are hurting KO, but let's talk specifically about some of these point reductions, because in some ways they don't change list writing that much.
Correct. And I think mainly
that goes down. It's
go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say,
please, your show. Go ahead.
I was going to say very quickly, if everything goes down the same, then everything's kind of relative to each other, the same amount.
Right.
I don't know if that's what you were going to say, but
no. So what I was going to say is it doesn't change you said it doesn't change list building all that much, and it's one of my, I won't say complaint. Complaint is a very strong word for this, but it's the list building in Kharadron Overlords specifically is very linear. It's very, very on rails, so to speak, because if you take an Ironclad, what's the natural synergy is Thunderers, because it doesn't really synergize all that well with the Sky Wardens or the Engine Riggers. So you take, if you're like, I want to play with Thunderers, okay, well, then you take an Ironclad. I want to play with Engine Riggers. Okay, well, then you take Frigates. And it kind of is like list building by connect the dots, like here, 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 here. Cool. So that's kind of why it doesn't change list building all that much, is because the synergies are so baked into the army.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's talk about some of the bigger reductions. Endrin Master with Dirigible Suit, 30 points for him. So that's like an outsized reduction compared to everyone else.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't being used. So
step 1 complete. Step 2, give me back phosphorite bomblets.
Oh yeah.
I mean, have you seen anything that makes you want to take him now? No. I mean, you think 30 points? He had already been reduced in April, I think, and then in previous FA Battlescrolls, and people are still not taking him. I mean, I think there's just a rules problem from there. He's not doing all that much.
He's like a little combat assassin hero, except he doesn't really do that much damage.
There's some interesting things you can do if you put Grudge Bearer on him, and all of a sudden his shooting attacks and his melee attacks are a little bit more interesting. But you're just buffing repair rolls, which aren't as impactful as they were last edition. When you could pack so many Engine Riggers in a boat, and now your Ironclad became, but so he's just not that interesting from a rules perspective. I mean, honestly, he could drop down to the cheapness of a Navigator or an Admiral, like in that 130, 140 range, and I still don't know what his role is. Right?
Yeah.
Especially without the Endrin Master just has that let ships retreat and shoot and run and shoot ability.
Yeah, see, that's utility, right? Like even if the Engine Master was, I don't know, I think he's 120 now. Even if for some unknown reason he was increased by 10 points, you're still taking him because his rules facilitate a synergy, or they facilitate a utility that's worth its points.
He's 110 for that ability is so good.
Okay, so 100. Oh, it's right there at the bottom. Okay, so imagine he didn't go down 20 and he's still 130, or even went up to 140. Yeah, of course you would, because his rules give you a reason to take him, whereas it's the opposite for the Engine Master. His rules don't give you a reason to take him, no matter how cheap he is.
What do you think about his reduction? Because that surprised me that he got a bigger reduction than some of the other heroes.
I mean, if you want my candid negative take, it's good, but he's still not worth his points.
Well, the Engine Master and Engine Harness.
The Engine Harness. Yeah. I mean, sure. Thank you for the free 20 points, because if you were playing an Ironclad, you were taking the Engine Master.
I mean, do you think it's weird that he got a bigger reduction than, say, like a Chemist, or he got 20 points and Navigator didn't get anything?
I mean, it's a bit weird, I guess. The Chemist just shouldn't be 120 points for his give +1 rend on a 3+ to a unit.
67% of the time it works, 100% of the time.
Yeah. And plus, with shooting now being relatively worse as well.
I think, honestly, I think we are looking at it with way more nuance than, no offense, than the GW rules team is probably. They say they see foot hero in a Kharadron Overlords army, and they're just like, cool, reduce points, except for the Navigator because he's brilliant, and not the Code Right because he's already at 80.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that the Code Right stayed at 80 with the other one being 110. But I mean, I'll take it because it's cheap. I thought it was interesting that actually, generally speaking, the heroes got such small reductions. When I saw the Code Right 110, I thought maybe that was the new Code Right. I mean, because we've seen his rules; they're fairly good. Having had a chance to play with them, I don't think they're as good as they look on paper, but they're still decent. And I'm surprised really that they haven't that didn't set a new standard, and that the chemist or whatever didn't get bigger points reductions.
Yeah, I mean the Scourge of Ghyran Codewright is like a fully fledged hero in the class of a chemist or even a navigator or the engine master. So 110 probably perfect for that war scroll. And if you want me to be perfectly honest, I still think the base Codewright has a place for if you need points or for the +1 charge ability, which sorry, there's a plane going overhead. But the +1 charge ability, while on a 3+, if you need those points, there's still a place for it when you're trying to buff multiple frigates, trying to get into combat. It's really, I used it when I needed the points and found that ability to be really, really great. So I still think that there's a place for the baseline Codewright. It's not a straight up one-to-one replacement like in some other armies. For example, in Maggotkin, where Rodigus was previously worthless, and now you will see Rodigus in every serious Maggotkin list. That war scroll is incredible. The new one.
Max is in the chat. Hi, Max.
Ooh,
hey, Max.
Max.
I don't know her. I don't know her.
Maxine. Oh, bless. The Codewright also, I want to point out something about the old Codewright, which he doesn't need to be near the units. He doesn't it's just
wide.
And that relates to a problem generally with the KO heroes, which is all the boats have a transport capacity, not just in models, but in how many units they can carry, which really limits like the usefulness of the heroes, because you're like, okay, well, I could carry this hero, or I could just carry like an extra unit. And there's this awkward thing where, especially with a frigate list, where you're like, as soon as you charge in and you take stuff, and then you like left your heroes behind.
Yep.
So.
Yep. I in some very candid feedback I provided to Games Workshop directly through a source, I mentioned that as being one of the biggest gripes when it comes to how the army functions specifically. That like it first of all pretty much eliminates MSU style play, because why would I take 1 unit's worth of 3 dudes or 5 when I can take 1 unit of 10 or 6? And I suggested doing away with the transport capacity for models is obviously important, but doing away with the limitation on unit count and instead adding a rule to both of the boats, the frigate and the ironclad, of captain's quarters or the poop deck, where you can that frigate is allowed to carry 1 hero or 2 heroes for the ironclad, or maybe 3 or whatever it is, so you don't get an unintended consequence of 12 chemists in a frigate, or obviously can't take that, but 6 admirals in a frigate, and then unintended consequences abound. But so you remove the restriction for having a number of units, but you still keep the hero down. That was my
something that I hope we would get in the new book, something like that, or making like reinforced units count as 2 units or something like that. So that so then, because that can incentivize like the MSU style a bit, like and then obviously you'd up the cap to compensate for that. One other thing to mention about this on an overall scale is the cheaper things are, if they get a 10-point decrease, the more important it is. Like percentage wise, Arkanauts getting a 10-point decrease is 10%. Thunderers getting a 10-point decrease is like
Thunderers like
7%,
10 points down. My list went down 60 points from the Thunderer decrease.
My engine rigger list went down 80 points because every 6-pack is worth 20. So technically the Arkanaut company received a bigger points drop than the Ironclad if you look at it percentage wise.
So I think that makes them maybe a bit more interesting. There's still a bit of a problem with transporting them, and stuff. But now we got like a free unit in a list potentially. It's it's a bit interesting. And especially if shooting isn't going to be as good, maybe they could do some things that you used to do Thunderers with before, and then if you don't get the shooting because you spent less points on them, you don't care as much. Like if you go a turn and they don't get to shoot, it's not as impactful. Maybe I don't know.
I mean, getting a unit of Arkanaut Company to sort of escort your foot hero that gets left behind by the boats because of the transport capacity is a nice little bonus, right? You get a little escort party for your navigator that doesn't trying to run and catch up.
Run and catch up, yeah. Cool. So, I mean, we need to move on for the points a bit. I think.
I mean, how do you complain about green all the way around, right?
We're definitely gonna make a list show because I've been cooking on lists at the moment.
We need to.
There's a lot you can fit in.
We need to get the points 100% confirmed, and then maybe do some other stuff. Get some games with the new battle tactics as well. Fully sort of, and I don't just mean I wanted to. I mean like lots of games. So because it's the battle tactics going to impact list writing more than these points changes, I think.
I agree.
And so the lists are going to look different. Some more than others, maybe, but we're gonna.
This season is more about picking your battle tactics and then writing a list to facilitate those battle tactics, rather than writing a list and then choosing a path of battle tactics based on your list. It's kind of flopped.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a good way of looking at it. Cool. And any other sort of hot takes on these point reductions or things you want to mention?
No, sir. No, Captain.
No,
Admiral.
Yes. Don't demote me. Cool. Let's move on then and talk about some of the other things we found out. So we found out there's going to be an errata for the frigate. The content creator that sort of supplied this information didn't give the exact wording. They implied it's because the way it's currently worded, in theory, you could charge a boat in, a frigate, obviously, charge a frigate in, take a load of engine riggers or sky wardens, and then if you place them outside of 3 inches, in theory, they could still make a charge move.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know how many people were doing that. Maybe Matt was doing it every game, and that's why they're doing. Maybe that's why they're changing it. But basically, they've indicated that the errata makes that not possible anymore. There is something interesting about the frigate ability and the way it potentially works in one of the battle tactics, or more to the point, potentially doesn't work. And if they errata it, maybe it will make it work. And then we'll just have to wait and see.
I've been utilizing the other frigate bug or feature, however it is, where you don't actually have to charge into combat with the frigate, because you can move up to, and because you pick up the units before you move the frigate, you can roll your assault boat roll, then pick up the units. You can move up to that distance, and so then you set your engine riggers or sky wardens down within combat range of the boat, and so you basically essentially get like a free redeploy when you're charging in with your frigate. So like potentially you could not go into combat, but then reposition all your guys onto an objective or whatever you're trying to achieve without actually putting them into combat.
I hadn't actually considered that. So does it not say that you need to end within half an inch with the frigate?
It says you can.
No, but it doesn't say that you need to. Okay, that's interesting.
Right.
Because I think the trouble is with the way the frigate is worded, a lot of people didn't really read it that much because we had it before.
Yeah.
And so most people kind of read it as, oh, it's what we had before, but no impact damage. But actually, there's a lot more nuance to it. And people are slowly picking up on that, I guess. And they probably messed up a couple of things.
I think the errata here basically is that assault boat doesn't have the core keyword, and so technically in the charge phase you haven't used a core ability yet by using assault boat, so then you can still charge as long as you're not within 3 inches of an enemy unit.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see actually what happens though with.
Essentially, what this would allow you to do is to like basically get a move buff in the charge phase using the frigate, then roll a charge roll with the engine riggers, and then leapfrog a screen and then hit like a
hero.
Yeah.
But I mean, what I mean is we don't know because we haven't seen the actual errata. We don't know some other things because basically there's a battle tactic that requires 2 units to retreat and 2 to charge. But it specifically mentions those units need to use a charge ability and end a charge move within range of a certain unit. Now, balloon boys that go with a frigate, well, any unit that goes with a frigate, but it's typically balloon boys, they count as having charged, but it doesn't say they count as having used a charge ability. And it doesn't say they've used a charge move because they're set up.
The charging unit is the frigate.
Yes.
That the frigate has used just a charge ability.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right.
So at the moment they don't count for this battle tactic, but maybe the errata actually could fix it so they do.
This is why people call us nerds. This is why people call KO players nerds.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if the errata does anything else that actually helps with that.
Yeah.
Basically. That's what I'm hoping, but I think it might not. I think they might just be fixing some problems. We've also got Lenny Lyon in the chat as well. Hi to you. So some other things happening with Scourge of Ghyran that we didn't contact in the in the last show was basically obscurings everywhere now.
Yes.
Some of this is real interesting.
Yeah, so if you look at the battle plans, we're not going for them today, but generally, if you look at them, there's a lot more obscuring terrain than the last GHB. Some have got like 6 pieces of obscuring, and obviously obscuring has changed. So we now know that if every model in a unit that is not a monster and is not flying is within 1 inch, then they are not visible to enemy units unless the enemy unit is in their combat range.
Correct.
So basically, they can sit in front of terrain as long as every model in the unit is within 1 inch of that terrain. That you can't see them for shooting, and for anything else. And then there's a drawback to that if they have ranged weapons, that unit that's next to the terrain piece half the range of their ranged weapons.
Keep in mind that even though they are not visible, you do not need visibility to charge.
Yeah, cool. And also, there's something else here, which is it only affects visibility to enemy units. So if they have like a buff ability that needs visibility, they're still visible for that.
Correct.
Because there's only enemy units, which is slightly annoying. Like, it'd be nice if there was some other drawbacks like that, but I guess no.
Keep in mind that area terrain has the obscuring rule, even though it was previously just cover. Area terrain now has the obscuring rule, and on a lot of battle plans, the icon for obscuring and obstacles, it will say area terrain or obstacle. So the defender will have the choice to place yet another piece of obscuring terrain if they want, or a rule with obscuring, because obscuring isn't like a terrain type, but it's a rule.
Yeah. So I mean, that's going to impact shooting a lot.
Yeah.
Of course.
There's also a thing to mention here that's kind of linked but separate, because it is possible with the new activate places of power ability to make an objective obscuring as well. So it does some other things, but basically for the obscuring thing is you get to choose an objective or terrain piece within 12 inches of the hero that's used the activate place for power ability, and then the roll dice on a 3+. The objective is obscuring for the rest of the battle or the objective or terrain. And when it's an objective, it's the whole control zone. So with terrain, it's 1 inch, but basically on an objective, it's 3 inches, or just the whole disc if you're using mousepad style objectives. So you could have stuff to sit on an objective and you can't shoot them.
It's going to be very difficult to play a massed Thunderer list and still be able to put out damage every single turn. You're going to need units to get in there and scrap around, because if you notice the ruling, if you're within combat range, you can still shoot. So as long as your units have shoot in combat, you'd still be able to use your firepower. So this actually gives relevance to the Thunderer rule that allows you to shoot in combat with everything. Finally, it has a use. But you're going to have to survive around the combat, which kind of helps with the idea, the synergy of bringing the new Scourge of Ghyran code right. You charge in with an anvil, you survive around the combat, and next turn you can shoot. Now, you still can't unleash hell or covering fire or whatever it is, because you can't pick a unit that's in combat, but you're essentially placing an anvil in combat, hoping you can survive, and then being able to unleash it. But it's a lot easier if you just send in the chainsaws and start hacking up all those trees and vines and overgrown plants.
I think you still wouldn't want to charge, because then you'd have to almost survive 2 rounds of combat.
Unless you get a double, yes.
But you could, accept more charges, redeploy less, bait them in more.
Yeah, it's gonna. Well, my biggest gripe is you want to make obscuring better. You want to have more obscuring terrain pieces. Okay, but I think what we're going to talk about next with the place of power, making an objective point a non-visible centerpiece is frustrating, because a tactic that we used to utilize is you can go hide in the woods. Go hide in the woods. That's fine. I'll wait for you to come out, and you're not scoring victory points. But now you're scoring victory points, and you don't have to come out of the woods. You can just
the objective points are the woods. Yeah.
Exactly. So we can no longer just wait for you to come out and then pounce because you need to score points. That's the most frustrating point for me.
I think if it was within 1 inch of the objective the objective disc, not the whole zone, I wouldn't feel so bad about it, because then they could just we just sort of touched the objective and now we're all invisible. And I think there's a lack of verisimilitude with the whole standing in front of a piece of terrain and you're invisible type thing. So, because the way this works is, if they're completely behind a piece of obscuring terrain, but one of their models isn't within 1 inch, then you can see them. And you can shoot them. You get the -1 to hit penalty, but they're easier to see than a whole unit in front that are closer to you. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever, does it?
Well, it's consider that we're in Ghyran, and so these things are overgrown and just constantly in the lore. Things in Ghyran are popping up, in front of your eyes. Plants are growing, vines are creeping, and almost.
But if they were on the other side of a piece of terrain to you, then it shouldn't matter how close they are to it, in theory, if it's obscuring. Whereas now it only really matters if they're close to it.
I also know for certain that it was being tossed around. I don't mean to troll our community here, but it was being tossed around for our Scourge of Ghyran update, that there was going to be a new enhancement to basically almost like a flashbang grenade that basically removed obscuring rules from a piece of terrain. It's like a once per game thing, almost like a burst grenade removes wards once per turn, but for once per turn you could remove obscuring. That was being tossed around, but never made the cut.
That's a shame. That is a shame, but maybe it will come up.
Give us Phosphex bombers that can burn the forests.
Napalm.
Yeah, or they're just so bright.
Nah.
They just release so much light that you can see everything. Do you know what I mean?
Or even a cool like a flashbang, that made the enemy unit move, D6 inches away from a terrain feature or something like that. That'd be interesting.
I want to convert some frigates to have helicopter blades.
So
gyrocopters, bring back gyrocopters.
Yes.
Yeah, I think balloon boys and frigates is gonna have to be the main style of play for KO now. I mean, it kind of was already for most players. I know Crom was using his Thunderers a lot, but
deploy into Elite 4.0.
I think it's going to be much harder now with these rules. How do you feel about it, Cron, as an ardent Thunderer player?
I still think Thunderers are good, especially with the changes to all-out defense. Mostly.
So good. That is understated.
The fact that they can, if I have the 3 Thunderers in the Ironclad, they can all-out defense one of the Thunderers, like the +1 hit and wound Thunderer, and then the other 2 Thunderers in the Ironclad are all just gonna rip through that armor. Suddenly, Rend 1 becomes dangerous again.
Maybe a chemist is worth it now. Because if you can all out defense only 1, if you get that 3 up off, that stonks.
It's a big deal, yeah. I think, especially with the new points changes, I've had a look at some test lists, and you can definitely now fit the big Ironclad with the Thunderclad and a frigate to kind of just flush out, like a combat frigate to flush out any unit that's really going to ground in an objective. You can keep the frigate back, have the Ironclad do its thing, then they go and hide. You flush them out with a frigate, and the Ironclad continues to be a menace.
Yeah, that hybrid list concept of a frigate and a 6-pack or 9, and the Ironclad with a a 10 or maybe 15-pack of Thunderers has really come into view for a lot of people. I know having a utility, even maybe just like a 6-pack of engine riggers that escort the Ironclad and go off on a side quest to go flush out, like you said, the people hiding in the woods or whatever.
Yeah. It's I think Thunderers are definitely still in it.
I don't think you can rely on them solely as your only point of damage, right? You need a hand-to-hand, you need a melee component to your list now.
Yeah, you need some way to flush them out of those that terrain for sure.
Really great point, Ron. Really great point.
Yeah,
and there's also nothing to stop you flying over units, dropping some bombs, setting up your Thunderers as a screen, and then it doesn't matter how far they can move. If they're not flying, they're just gonna walk up to you 3 inches away, and then you redeploy back, and then you do it again next turn. Drop some more bombs on them. So that's cool. Oh, we got a dog. We've got a dog on the poop deck.
Big.
On your lap.
He's our Griffhound. This is Pig.
Griffhound.
Aww.
See, Warhammer Weekly's not the only show with dogs. So I'll quickly just finish off what Place of Power does, because it does.
Sorry, yeah, we kind of bounced around there.
Well, I mean, the most important thing for KO was the obscuring thing, but so it also allows a non-hero and non-priest unit to unbind and banish, which we did before. It's fine. And then the other thing is it can heal. So you roll a dice, and on a 1, all units within 6 inches of any places of power, not the one that you picked, every place of power takes 1 mortal wound. But that's only on a roll of 1, and on a 3+, you get to heal 2 to all units within 6 inches of the activated terrain. So it just starts me healing now, basically.
So the Navigator would be able to unbind 2 a turn if he activates the place of power, because he's not a wizard. He can unbind as if Wizard 1, but he's not a wizard and not a priest. So
yeah, although I think the wording of it does say you can unbind as if you're as in the same way as Wizard 1. It actually mentions 1, which is interesting, because then you've got 2 things saying that you can do it as if you were Wizard 1, where Wizard 1 could only ever do 1. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. So it might not let you do it twice, but I think the main thing here is 6 inches is quite big for the healing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you need to be within. So
I love the idea of like you like hitting the place of power and damn it, I rolled the 1, but then like your opponent's like foot hero who's next to the place of power is like, god damn it shocked me.
Yeah.
It's like across the board.
Yeah, just like every other place of power. And that's the thing is people are going to be hugging terrain. And it's a place of power that got turned obscuring. But it still is a place of power. Like it just got added to the obscuring rule. So it could be like they just start taking damage. I mean, it's only on a roll of 1. So it's not going to happen that much, but it's just
it's what, 1 mortal wound, but you know.
Yeah, it's only 1, but it just could be funny.
It'll happen to friend of the show, Ian McLeese, quite a bit, because that man rolls 1s more than anybody I've ever seen.
Static shock just
and there's a couple other things that we found out, which is you need to be at least 11 points behind now. You have to double turn, still do a battle tactic, or battle tactics now. So yeah, that's just because the scoring is bigger now. Basically, you get more points for battle tactics potentially, and more points.
Yeah, so it's like the scoring is now like the mission gives you 50 points and the battle tactics gives you 15.
No, battle tactics could get you up to 30 points.
What?
Yes.
Yes, because you
30. There were 5 points each.
Yes, so you pick 2 cards, with each with 3, so 5, and you can do up to 2 battle tactics per turn. So in your first 3 turns, you could do 6 battle tactics, and you've got none left, but you'd score 30 points.
It is possible to score 20 points in 1 turn.
Yes.
I think I missed the part where you can take 2 battle tactics. I was going off the assumption you take 1.
One
card?
You
have to take 2 battle tactic cards.
Yeah, you have to take 2.
Cards.
Yeah, so you get 6 total tactics to be able to do over the course of 5 turns.
Yes.
I thought you only get 3. Okay.
So the one thing I'm not
learning on the fly here at Aethercast.
Clear on, because my GHB hasn't arrived. And it didn't appear to be in the leaks, is if there's a cap on how many points you can score in a turn. Because previously it was capped at 10, and there was a maximum of, and it was actually effective. It was a maximum of how many points you get from objectives, but that doesn't appear to be the case anymore.
Well, I think it's only capped because you can score only a number of. I'm pretty sure this it's not explicitly stated, but I think the maximum points you could score in a turn is 20.
Yeah, but before it was capped at a point lower than it was possible to score.
Correct.
In some battle plans, yeah. So that's what I was wondering. So it does seem like basically it's every game now you're effectively scoring out of 80. Is that right? The maximum you can score in a game now is 80. Most battle plans.
10, 20. If you got all of your tactics, that's 30. And then, if you scored all your primaries every turn, it'd be 80 points would be the maximum you could score over.
There might be 1 or 2 battle plans where it's slightly different.
Sure.
So that's the one where you can get an extra 10 points at the end if you have a certain objective.
How likely do we think it's going to be for people to actually be able to score all 6 battle tactics?
Unlikely.
Battle tactics are very difficult to score, which we'll see here in a moment, I'm sure. You'll notice that there is quite a bit of it is no longer hold hands and run.
Yeah, and some of the ones that seem easy are not as easy as you think. But
especially
we'll talk about those a bit more.
Yeah, of course.
Yes. I think, we might be thinking of the same thing there. So there's a couple of other things here. We mentioned the 11 points thing. And the other thing, which is really big, which is if you have more regiments than the opponent, it allows you to once per game re-roll 1 priority roll.
Not drops, regiments.
Yes.
Auxiliary units do not count for this.
Okay. Yes. So hello, this seems really, really strong. I kind of want to not take 3 heroes or 4, just spam a couple 80-point code rights, bump my drops up to 4, my regiments up to 4 or something, and then just get a priority reroll. The only reason you're wanting to go second really is to get the opportunity to get that double turn, right?
Or stop a double turn.
Which is already unlikely because more unlikely than not because the other person wins ties. Now if the other person re-rolls the dice, you can kind of just ensure the game just back and forth the whole time.
It's interesting because you only get to re-roll once, so that has mixed value. Because if your opponent rolls a 6,
Yeah. Some re-rolls on the priority roll are not all created equal. It really depends on what your opponent rolls.
Yeah. So I mean, you got to pick your moment for it, and sometimes the moment where it will work is not going to be like the moment where statistically you got the most chance of beating their roll is not always going to be the time when you need it the most.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because if you go low drops, how often do you come up against someone else that's also 2 drops? And it just comes down to that roll off.
And nobody gets the once per game ability.
Yeah, I was going to say, you don't. I was going to say, does it count for that roll? But it doesn't matter because
I don't necessarily want to go first, but if I'm forced to go first, it's not usually a terrible situation because Seize the Center is still, it's a name different, but in essence and spirit, it's still one of the battle tactics you can choose. And that's a great battle tactic for us turn 1 because you can get up into the middle and then just redeploy away when they move up to engage. So I've never hated. Thank you. I've never hated being forced to go first. It's not something I would choose to, but if you are forced to go first and you get this free reroll once per turn, you're just talking about, icing on the Aether cake. So,
okay. So there's a couple of things here that are like pushing things in certain directions. Shooting has been pushed backwards a bit. In a minute, when we start talking about battle tactics, I think they are pushing MSU a bit more. And there's a couple of other things there, but turn order specifically for KO, I've always wanted to go second.
Yes.
And let my opponent come forwards and basically never want to get double turned, which typically meant that my opponent's got the objectives and I had to slowly try and pick them off the objectives. But you can't just go in onto a load of objectives because, you kill one unit on objective and they've got a hammer waiting behind or whatever. So you can't necessarily always risk that. But we typically let the opponents get the objectives and we had to come back.
Now we could do it the other way around.
Yes, that is the point. Is do we need to start thinking more about, I don't know, putting Thunderers on the objectives at the beginning? So, well, yeah, you can make it obscuring, but I'm already on it, so therefore you have to charge me, and they're tankier than, say, Arkanauts on there or something.
Yeah, now I'm -1 to hit, wound, and attacks.
Yeah.
Or rend, sorry.
Yeah. So do we need to start thinking more about the way we play KO and that we do just fight over we do just want to sit on circles more?
Maybe you've taken Spell in a Bottle and you can get a get a cheeky manifestation screen in front of your Thunderers.
This my mouse is not working. A thing from the chat, which is the problem with the Seize the Center battle tactic is that you need to be charged, which is what I assume it means not charged.
Yeah, you have to be. Yeah, exactly. It's
want to be in combat.
Right.
Yeah. I think So we'll cover that. There's 2 battle tactics where I think that's relevant because we'll move on to battle tactics and we'll start.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
So the first thing I want to say is just to get it out there is that you need to pick 2 cards and you do it in list building, and you can score up to 2 battle tactics per turn. So potentially 10 points per turn on battle tactics, but it's capped at 60 points for the whole game. Like if you do, I don't think people are going to get that many. I think people are going to get a bit like 4, but you can't get 2 every turn and get 100 points.
No.
So, and the important thing is you're picking them in this building. So let's look at the first one, which is Master the Paths. So you have to also do these in order.
Yes.
Which is very important, because some of them, they kind of like, oh yeah, I could do that at some point in the battle. That's fine. And the first one on this, the affray, because you have to do your affray first, is cut off their head. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if an enemy hero has been destroyed this battle. Now, that sounds relatively easy on the face of it, because if you think in the mindset of, oh yeah, at some point in the game, I'll kill a hero. But
gotta be the first thing you do.
You've got to do it early on. I mean, round 3 is really the latest you want to do it, but you want to be doing it earlier than that. And bear in mind, there's going to be a lot of obscuring terrain. You've already got guarded hero. Heroes are typically behind units. It's not always that easy to kill a hero.
No.
And it's not always the thing you want to be killing. Sometimes you need to kill the unit. And it's more important to kill the unit. So you can kill a hero during a battle. And I like the fact that it's, as long as a hero's killed this battle, like, you don't have to do it in your turn. If you kill it in your opponent's turn, it counts. Or the turn before. Like, sometimes you just be like, okay, well, yeah, I got that last turn. So, I'm, it's happened. But I think this being the first one makes this whole set a little bit of a non-pick for me.
If you pick, I'm sorry, Kron, go ahead.
I feel KO have a pretty good way, good chances of good ways to kill heroes.
I agree.
Like, first of all, if it's not a hero that in some of these battle tactics, it's kill something that your opponent chooses. It's just kill a hero, any hero. So if they have a big monster hero, they can't hide. You just shoot the crap out of it. It goes down, and you get started. Like, against death, it's what you want to do anyway. You want to kill Usharan, you want to kill Catacross, whatever.
Vordry.
This is something that you need to do. So
opponent dependent, it can be good. And then on others, it's harder.
Against other armies that might have just made of small heroes. You still have ways of a big assassin frigate that will come in, do some insane charge tactics. Get in the back, hit the little hero with a couple riggers, and then get out of there. Battle tactic done.
Yeah,
I think we've got more options than most armies to really snipe out big and small heroes.
Yeah, potentially. There's some things, if you pick this, there's some things you could do to build around it. Like, you could put a gun hauler in the sky with a battle ram. So you come down, shoot them. If they don't die from shooting, or if you can't shoot the hero but you can shoot something else, you can move after you shoot, so you get closer, and then charge, and then you do your battle ram, and then if you don't finish them off with the mortal wounds, you can hopefully just do it with combat damage.
Or you pair this with a battle tactic card that you are reliably comfortable being able to do turn 1, and by turn 2 you're probably going to be able to kill a hero. Or if you're playing a heavy frigate list with lots of engine riggers, being able to move up and then basically negate combat hero or guarded hero by being within the 12-inch range. Even if they are behind a screen, you could pelt them with dozens of nail gun shots.
I mean, there's a trick here you could do with a frigate list where you kill the unit, but you pile in a way so that you're within 3 inches of that hero. And that hero gets to fight. And then at the end of the turn, you're like, right, Brock's going to use his ability. Skywardens are using their ability. I'm powering through.
Boom, boom, boom,
and then
boom.
More wounds, more wounds, more wounds. If it's like a 5-wound hero, there's a good chance you could kill it.
Yeah.
So
another thing I do like about sort of the overall change to how you do battle tactics is it's not like, oh, I'm taking Slay the Tyrants, and all of a sudden your opponent's like, okay, well, I have to protect this hero at all costs. They don't know what you're thinking. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They don't know what you're thinking in terms of your game plan and which battle tactics. They obviously know which ones you have to complete first, but they don't necessarily know what your strategy is going to be in terms of, okay, he's got Master of the Paths, or she has Master of the Paths. I got to protect my heroes. Well, okay, go ahead and do that.
But you got another card.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So
yeah,
you're not showing your hand like you are currently or previously.
I mean, the point of having 2 cards is very important because, this might not be necessarily easy to do turn 1 all the time, but if you've done like turns 1 and 2 with your other card, and then this is like you do this one turn 3, and then it's not as bad. The other ones, so the second one is Seize the Paths. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if there are more friendly units in neutral territory than enemy units. And then if there's no neutral territory in the battle plan you're playing, you complete this tactic at the end of your turn if there are no enemy units within friendly territory. So there are 4 battle plans where there's no neutral territory. Roughly
about a third of them. Yeah.
A third. I think having more units in neutral territory is relatively easy unless you come up against super MSU builds, because we can just move a ship and then move multiple units in. And we could easily have our whole army in neutral territory.
Oh, yeah.
On those 1/3 of missions, do you think it's possible? How easy do you think it is to not have an enemy unit in your territory?
Pretty difficult, I think.
Bear in mind, this is the second one, so it's not turn 1. It's going to be
relatively
hard,
tricky.
Yeah, you know, picking. I mean, if you're somebody who goes to a lot of tournaments, picking your battle tactics based on the missions that are chosen. Hopefully, Hopefully, you're going to a tournament that posts their mission pack
battle
ahead
plans.
of time. Yeah, because it's going to be very important. Oh man, 2 or 3 of the missions are, territories are bumped right up against each other. Maybe I don't take Master of the Paths.
Yeah, it's because as soon as they get to turn 2, if you got this, they're looking right. Okay, well, do you have Seize the Paths? If so, do I need to just move into your territory with at least 1 unit? Now, the thing is, turn order is important here, because if you do manage to kill a hero turn 1, if you have the first turn in turn 2, as long as they can't redeploy into your territory, that's actually more achievable. But if your opponent gets a turn before you, it makes it so much harder. And if you're trying to do it on turn 3, or like it's
impossible,
then it becomes like a
table.
Have I tabled my opponent more type of thing, or like gone to the other side of them, so that if they want to come to me, they have to come out of my territory again. Like, yeah. So that is hard, I think, on 1/3 of the battle plans. And then the last one is you complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if at least 3 different friendly units are each wholly within 9 inches of a different corner of the battlefield, and only one of those corners is wholly within friendly territory, and no more than one of those units can be set up.
I mean,
which for KO makes it really annoying, because you can't transport them with a ship to get them there, because that's a setup. Other than the boat, the boat's not set up, but the units are.
Yeah, that one's more. You've got you win more, I guess. If you're already winning, you just drive everything over into the corners, but
win harder.
Yeah, that's it. This is a win more one. That last one.
Yeah.
And potentially for KO, I think the second one is as well. I mean, almost in some ways, if you've got to come up against opponents where you really need to focus on their units, not their heroes, almost all 3 of them are.
Yeah.
how would you like if you had to rate these as like red, never going to take, orange is like I think I could do 1, yellow is I think I could do 2, and green is like I could do all 3. How would you rate this one?
Yellow.
Okay.
Very battle plan dependent.
Yeah.
It's definitely some of them are definitely achievable for us.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe.
It's yellow verging on orange potentially, I think.
Yeah.
You're gonna get some missions where you have like just does it matter? Because if you have tabled your opponent, does it matter if you get that battle tactic? No, because then you're winning on objectives and stuff anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a hard one.
Yellow light.
Unfortunately, that's a theme here. Because what I tried to do at first was, okay, let's whittle them down a bit and just go through them and be like, nope, and hoping I would get to like 3. And what I did was I got to like 0. I was like, they're all hard. Okay, so let's talk about the next one. The next one is called Restless Energy. And so your first one, your affray, is water with blood. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if you control an objective that was controlled by your opponent at the start of your turn. So basically taking an objective from your opponent. That's certainly doable if you've got a frigate and some blue boys.
Typically, you like to take control of objectives that your opponent controls. So this is certainly something that you're going to be looking to do.
Mm-hmm. If you want to do this turn 1, it generally probably requires your opponent going first.
Turn 1. Not for us.
It could do if your opponent goes first and they just move some little units on, but there's the problem of having some sort of reprisal, isn't there, in the next turn. And if you have to use a hammer to do it, that could be a problem. There is something about this one where I think if people are trying to hug terrain, they might just they can do this annoying thing on some of the battle plans where they could potentially clip onto an objective with like 1 or 2 models, but then keep all of their models on terrain so you can't shoot them, which they might try and do against KO, in which case you could just run some Arkanauts on and outnumber them. Could be an interesting thing that happens there, because certainly some bits of terrain and some models have got big enough bases they can just clip onto the objectives. Even if the objective isn't invisible, they could be on an objective and still be invisible. But I think, that's a doable one. Yeah, it may not happen. I mean, when do you find in your games typically do you normally start taking objectives from your opponents?
Bottom of 1 sometimes.
Okay.
If you're
that's aggressive.
I play 24 balloons and 2 frigates and Brock.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
So I mean, a lot of times you don't have to go, full in, full in to do this one. If somebody just clips it with a unit, if you shoot them off it and you've only clipped it with your units and you shoot them off, then you've completed this. It doesn't mean you have to go in with your whole army and smash into their castle, and their main objective. Maybe they just went and stole a primary from you with a beast or something like that, or a unit of dogs or something.
Yeah, I mean, and there's certainly, like I said, if your opponent goes first in turn 1 and they're trying to get more objectives than you, then quite often they will just move a unit so it just clips an objective or something. So it's quite easy. You don't necessarily have to charge them.
If you're going second, I guess it could be easy. Or you just kind of, oops, I forgot to deploy some units on my objective over here. I hope no one takes this from me. And then...
Yeah, so you come up against an opponent that teleports and oh, this objective here is definitely not bait. Yeah, enjoy your extra however many points it is now of having more. I can't remember. Is it 3? Oh, something 2? I don't know. I can't remember. Okay, so the next one is invasive species. You complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if you control every objective within enemy territory.
Okay.
And then it says if there are no objectives within enemy territory, you complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if you can drop every objective that was controlled by your opponent at the start of the turn.
On first reading, you're like, well, oh my God, okay, well, how do you complete this mid-game? But some battle plans, there's only one objective in enemy territory. So if you have it, you control every objective in enemy territory, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, these are really battle plan dependent. Like now I kind of revised my statement from earlier in the show. Not only are you picking your battle plan, your battle tactics based and then choosing your list, but you're choosing your battle tactics based on the battle plans that you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
a little bit.
You know,
unless you're trying to build, like, I mean, a lot of tournaments here will just be like, we won't reveal the battle tactics until the day. So I mean, the battle plans until the day.
I can't stand that, to be honest with you. If they try to, I think it's an effort not to, you know, optimize and min max to the event, but just tell me the battle plans that I'm playing. If I'm going to pay money to show up to your event, please.
But I mean, certainly if you're trying to build an all-comers list, like, you know, if you want to keep going to several tournaments and just to keep playing the same list, you don't want to. You want to have like an all-comers list, and so you can't, like, how battle plan dependent is this one? I mean, certainly there are some where there's like 3 objectives in your opponent's territory.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's going to be hard. Is there anywhere there's no objectives in enemy territory?
Because it's within. It's not wholly within, right? That's what I was
wondering. So ones on the border count.
Correct.
I
can't imagine.
I don't think of any that don't have any in territories.
So one that lets you remove objectives?
The Vice? Or if Gargants can still boot objectives, right?
Yeah, it's just there for case. Just there because Mega Gargants will kick the objectives out of their territory before you score it. So, yeah. So that one is. I think that is hard, especially for KO. Generally, people do move out of their territory against us because they're coming towards us. But with the change to obscuring and that, they don't necessarily have to do that so much because they're not in a position where, okay, well, if I sit here, I'll just keep getting shot until I'm dead. So
I do appreciate that that this battle tactic card's strike is named invasive species, and that's one of the primary objectives that I'm accomplishing in the battle plan of life in my professional setting is protecting the city that I work for from invasive species. It's pretty funny.
It's certainly aptly named for Ghyran as well.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay. So that one is, potentially pretty difficult. I think with a frigate list, especially if you have Brock, where you can potentially fly over the top of enemy units and, you know, and then even maybe charge faction terrain to get further away. I think there's some doability there, but it does feel almost a bit like if you control every objective in enemy territory, is it another one that's like win harder?
And then the last one is just control every objective. No ifs and buts about it. Like, okay.
Yeah, and just every objective on the battlefield, the whole battle, which is definitely this is a win harder one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So rating this one, I'm tempted to say orange.
What's the scale? Green, orange?
So red is I can't do any of them.
Okay.
Orange is I could do one. Or you could just do like 0, 1, 2, 3.
Sure.
It's easier to remember.
I understand.
I think one of these, the first one is doable, and then you're done.
Okay, so this is a one-er.
I think that the first one is definitely doable. Strike is achievable on very specific battle plans, and the last one is almost a non-starter. So I think I put this at like between a red and an orange, leaning toward orange.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
Okay. So we don't like this one, basically. Okay. Next one, number 3. Intercept and recover. So there's a whole bunch of stuff here before we get to the actual tactics. The tactics are quite simple. But basically, it's your opponent has to pick 3 of their units. Their units are carrying some sort of special thing.
Treasure.
They got the treasure. They got the gold. They got
Loot.
They got your snacks or whatever. They've got something you want, and you've got to go and kill those units because they got.
They're on the babattlefield like, I've got your Cheetos. Come and get them.
Yeah, they've got something.
I literally just spit out my wine all over my monitor. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
I've got your snacks.
They've stolen your mail, and you've got to get it back. That's like, so those 3 units are holding the stuff. They can't pick faction terrain or manifestations. They have to pick a unit, and each unit can only carry 1. So they can't just say this unit's got all 3, basically. And then there's a whole other bunch of stuff to just deal with them deploying stuff on the board, which basically boils down to if they deploy stuff on the board, it's good for you because then you automatically, like, if they can't give it to units after because they've deployed all their stuff on the board, then you just keep getting points because you automatically complete it. And then the only other thing of note here is if you went second in the previous battle round and choose to go first, so if you double turn, your opponent gets to remove one of these important treasures. These snacks.
They eat the snacks.
They eat the snacks, and you're like, well, it doesn't matter if I kill you now. I can't get the snacks.
He's just licking his lips, like,
yeah,
licking his fingers.
Like, you're not going to go fishing around through their poo to get the snacks back. Like, once they've eaten them, they're gone. So, like, that basically means if you double turn, you lose 5 points.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you
unless you've already done it,
or you have to be perfect on every other one of your tactics in order to score max tactics points, but it's a huge disadvantage.
Okay, and then the actual tactics are first one is kill 1 enemy unit.
That's carrying a Ghyran snack.
Yes, and then the second one is kill 2. And then the third one is kill 3, so you can have a free, like a full, start and dessert with your snacks. So,
and we are in Ghyran, so it's like that scene in The Lion King where they're like finding all the grubs and the bugs and beetles underneath rocks and stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, at first glance, this seems relatively simple and easy.
This is going to be it's a pretty generic battle tactic that I think pretty much any army can attempt.
I think it could prove difficult.
It's going to prove difficult because it's your opponent picking these snack units. And, like, if I was playing KO, if someone used this against me, I'd pick my Ironclad and, like, 2 little heroes that I'm going to keep way at the back of all the Ironclads. They are not getting to those until they've killed everything else.
Yeah.
If I'm playing Doc, it's going to be Harpies.
Either people are going to have anvils that are almost impossible to kill, and if you're fighting them, they're kind of happy about it, or they're going to pick things that they can just like basically make it so you can't kill them because like they teleport away or they keep moving away somehow, so you can't get to them.
Yeah, your opponent's going to pick all their backfield units, all their little heroes, everything that is designed to not be in combat, and/or is like Archaon.
Yeah.
Well, Archaon's not that hard to kill, but
or one of those big units of like 30 guys with a 3-up save and
10 Blight Kings.
Yeah, like.
Don't start the Nurgle talk, Alex. You won't like where the show goes from here.
So it's going to be difficult. And there used to be a battle plan like this in, I want to say, 2nd edition. But the difference is on that battle plan is you got a bonus. You got like a buff or like you wanted the units you picked to be your hammers. You both picked units, and if you killed something with your special unit, so there was an incentive.
Predator, Apex Predator, or
that was a 3rd ed thing. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what it was, but yeah, it was. Yeah.
And KO used to be good at that one, but shooting used to be better then because you didn't have so much obscuring.
Yeah,
and also there was an incentive for people to pick the things you wanted to kill anyway.
And 4th edition just reduced shooting damage, rend, and range across the board. So
I think
this is certainly interesting though because it's like I mean, I guess, the 2 or 3 archetypes of KOs almost play like different armies, like the way again, I say my build. It's not my build. It's just the build that I use.
You take credit for it.
No. I'm very much not taking credit for it. But I say my build is a shorthand. Like I play double frigate, 24 riggers until I find a reason not to. That's my build of choice until a new book comes out and something's more interesting, more fun to play. So when I play that double frigate 24 engine rigger archetype, very, very like, I'm out. Now I'm in and striking you with everything I got, and I'm out again. And I'm over here and I'm striking you with everything I got. So if I'm like, oh, okay, so you gave Prince Vordry your stolen seed pod. Okay, well, I can launch myself from 30 inches across the board and still charge and then hit Vordry with everything I got. I was going to go after him anyway, right? Like I was going to go after your big unit of 12 gluttons anyway. So sure, go ahead and give it to him. And I very, very, very rarely take a double turn unless I'm already just going to shut the door on the game anyway. So that doesn't bother me either. We kind of have to rely on doing damage to our opponent and crippling their key units anyway. So this actually isn't as bad as I thought initially, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it leans into what KO want to do in the past anyway.
Right.
We traditionally wanted to remove our opponent's units so then we can catch up on our objectives. And this is removing units. We want to kill the units. So
think about it from your opponent's perspective. You set up on the board and now I got to pick 3 units that entire army of angry chainsaw wielding, aether rifle wielding dwarves are going to be targeting. Right? Why would I want to put a target on the back of my hammer? Maybe your anvil, sure, but there are scenarios where you can definitely crack an anvil, even some of the harder anvils.
Yeah, and remember, we can remove a ward.
Yeah,
if we need to.
100%. Oh, you were trying to put ethereal on your 10 blood knights that you have stolen seed pod on. Voidstone orb, that's gone.
Yeah. Or you think you can get away from me by skit leap? Voidstone orb. So, yeah.
And then we can, we could put an assassin frigate in there and pretty much reach anyone at any time. It's
or like Gargants, where they have like 4 units anyway, and like you have to pick 3 of them. Like,
I'm gonna kill Gargants. This is a pretty good generic. I'm pretty sure, and I think most armies in the game will pick this one as their second, unless they're doing something. Unless they have a specific plan with something else, just kill 3 units. Cool.
This is a great battle plan, or a great battle tactic card. I wish they came up with a better name for it than that, but this is a great battle tactic card as like a canvas for another card that you're picking that's a little bit more specialized. So even if your plan is not working on the other card, you can fall back to, okay, I just got to kill that unit.
Yeah. And it's also more of a if a lot of people take it, this will be even more of a disincentive for people to double turn. Essentially, I think double turn will become even more rare in this new GHB. There was already kind of people were already making the choice when after they couldn't take a battle tactic and giving the opponent the underdog, and now that they're also giving up their own battle, like just burning their own battle tactics, it's not gonna come up very much, I think.
Yeah. So
unless it's really like if I double turn now, I win the game kind of scenario.
Yeah. Exactly.
The important thing to mention about this one is the thing we said earlier about being 11 points behind and then you can still double turn. That doesn't overwrite this battle tactic. Like, that works on all the other battle tactics, but this is a whole separate thing on this one.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. There's also something we haven't been talking about here, which is, as a KO player, how you feel if your opponent picks these. And Kron sort of mentioned it a little bit. Like, you pick a ship, or you pick the heroes that are going to sit behind the ship and stuff. We've got some tools to deal with this if opponents pick it.
Oh, much more than maybe any other army in the game, really. Maybe Sylvaneth, but it's like, oh, okay, I'll pick this one unit of engine riggers, and they're constantly redeploying away or transporting away, power throughing away.
Yeah. If we want our little hero to not get hit, he's not gonna get hit.
Yeah,
correct.
Unless you leave him behind because you've charged in somewhere.
Brock is also not a bad pick because I'm starting to realize that taking Brock in a list, even though you lose his mustache blasters and his relatively decent combat attacks, him buffing ships and buffing engine riggers is much more valuable. So he's also very mobile. He can do damage from afar. So Brock is not a bad pick if your opponent picks this to pick Brock, because he can still do damage with shooting, and he's highly mobile and he's decently tough. So
yeah, I mean, you're mostly taking Brock for his once per game run and charge. That is the most important.
And the +1 attack.
Yeah,
and the shooting.
You're taking him for the +1 attack, and he's got good shooting. He's he's a frigate.
Yeah,
so shooting.
He's almost kind of like a frigate and a half, but less than an ironclad. But anyway, so he's good at shooting, decently tough, has value outside of being right in the front line. So he's actually not a bad pick.
Yeah, he can give out the combat buff without actually being in combat himself. And
correct.
There's some things he can do, and I think the most game changing thing is when you pull out that run and charge.
Oh yeah. Oh,
because
absolutely.
that's when that's why it's once per game, because it's like an extra 6-inch movement and stuff.
With Aether runners, with and
so you still get that even if you pick him. So I want to cycle back to a couple of these because we didn't talk about it. So on the second one that we talked about, the one where you have to take an objective off your opponent or take all the ones in enemy territory. How do you feel about that one as a KO player if your opponent has it?
I guess would you try and be less aggressive and not take the thing in their deployment zone?
What kind of armies are taking this one though? I don't think this is one that necessarily like a Slaves to Darkness army is taking. Right? They're a little bit, I don't know, maybe.
Super aggressive armies are taking this. Super aggressive armies that are coming in and trying to just grab everything as quickly as possible.
Iron Jaws, maybe.
I was gonna say Iron Jaws. Cruel Boys would love this one.
But do you think there's much that KO has in the toolbox to try and stop this? Because we don't like just sitting on objectives, and sometimes we will sacrifice objectives to keep our units alive by redeploying off them and stuff.
Of course.
So,
wow,
feeding ground is not uncommon. So
yes,
I don't not necessarily enthused about my opponent taking this, but
yeah. Would you think? I mean, keeping your unit alive to take it back later is probably worth more in the long run. 100%. So it's probably not going to change things. It's going to be hard for us to stop these, I think. I mean, yeah, controlling every objective in our territory is going to be difficult, I think, for any army. Unless we've gone across to the left side of the board, you know what I mean? And then the first one, killing our heroes, I think we can avoid that
pretty easily.
Got to be more cautious with where you place them in that. Like if you've got a navigator or the new code, right, don't push them forward so they can use their 18-inch ability or whatever. Like, don't be like, well, yeah, I need to get him within 18 inches. Like, just be like, well, you know, if I don't get his ability off for a turn, it doesn't matter. Like, it's better. And if they can't get the first one, then they can't get any of them.
I'm taking the navigator to buff the movement of my frigates, not necessarily to slow the movement of my enemy.
So yeah, I guess the focus is probably on that one, is keep your heroes alive. Do you think you have to be more cautious with your heroes when you charge in your boats? And maybe like, will you take boats with you now sometimes, Matt? Do you reckon? It's awkward because then you take your boat into combat. So
yeah,
I mean your hero into combat. So it's like, I guess you run them off into some terrain.
Caveat: if you hear some screaming children, those are screams of joy, not screams of pain. In the background, my nieces are running around with water pistols. So, yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, it's something that what you're going to have to do is do some really fast analysis at the start of the game. What's your opponent? What's their tactics? How do I counter them? Because depending on both the faction that your opponent is playing and their battle tactic cards is going to really dictate a lot about how you try to stop them in different ways, right? You're either going to try to outmaneuver them or you're going to try to strike when the time is right. So it's really all about doing some really fast analysis.
Yeah, I think we got I think we can keep heroes alive for a while as long as we're focused on it. As long as you notice your opponent's got that battle tactic, it's doable. At least, because if you stop them doing it to like turn 4, you've achieved a lot anyway.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're severely limiting their options.
Okay. And we talked about it for the third one, so let's move on to the fourth one then.
Yeah.
So the fourth one is Wrathful Cycles. So the first one of these is you basically have to control more objectives than your opponent.
This one's kind of tricky. It's kind of you go up, then you go down, then you go up again.
Yeah, because the next thing you want to do is be the underdog,
which is a bit tricky if you're already controlling more objectives than your opponent. So you have to score more and then somehow have less.
Yes, and you have to then have at least one friendly unit on the battlefield that is at least half the friendly units on the battlefield.
So half your units need to fight.
Yes. So basically, if you've got a Thunderer list, you're not doing this. I'm
right out for this one.
If you've got a balloons list, you can
a lot easier
do it, but you've got to be careful about like how many heroes and stuff you have. But I mean, the boats get to fight and stuff, so you should be doing it if you've got balloons. Probably.
And then you need to basically do the order battle tactic where you have wholly within each units in every quarter of the battlefield, and you have to control more, and you can't have any enemy units on object. Basically, table them.
Yeah, maybe not. So
no enemy units on any objectives. On your objectives.
No enemy units on the objectives that you control. So if they take an objective from you, that doesn't matter.
That doesn't count.
But you need to still hold the most objectives on. You need to hold more objectives than your opponent, and your opponent can't have anyone on those objectives that you have.
Okay, so it basically means that when you take an objective from your opponent, you just have to wipe them out, not outnumber them.
Correct. And you need to be on every table quarter.
Yes, and you have to be on every table quarter. It kind of does feel like the last one's a bit of a win more type one.
Again, a lot of them seem to be like if you've tabled if you're beating them so badly that there's no way they're going to come back, have 5 points.
Yeah.
I don't like the fact that I'm already subjected to Wrathful cycles here in my house, and I have to be subjected to another Wrathful cycle.
Oh dear. Yeah, so let's go back to the first two and the way that plays out. I feel like this one is based around going first. If you go first turn one, it's very easy to control more objectives than your opponent because you just move on to the middle objectives.
Yeah.
Because it's scored in the end of your turn. And so if they haven't had a chance to get onto objectives, it's easy. And then by doing that in the second round, there's more chance of you being the underdog because, you scored more than them and you got one battle tactic. Try not to get two because if you get two, that's going to be hard. But if they got the same number of objectives as you, like they come and outnumbered you on those middle ones, and then they got two battle tactics, they could make you the underdog. You only have to be 1 point behind to be the underdog. And then, and this needs to be a frigate balloons list to do the second one.
Yeah, 100%.
But it comes back to this thing of, do you want to be taking first turn? Because if you don't take first turn, it's like, how are you doing the first one? How are you getting more objectives than your opponent? And two, unless you're doing it later in the game. It's not an easy one.
Are you able? You're not able to score 2 objectives on the same card, right? Like, I can't say, cool, I have more objectives than you, I score a fray. I also complete strike because all of my, like, say a balloons list goes all in and you control more than your opponent, scored it. But I also did all of the things for strike. I can only, is that, I honestly don't know the answer to that question.
I don't believe so. I think you need to do them in separate turns, the fray, strike, and domination.
Because a fray and strike in this one are very easy to complete on the same turn if you're doing an all frigate balloons list.
No, I think you need to. I think you need to do them in different turns. I think you can only score. I think you can score 1 from each card per turn.
I think that's the wording. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So, yeah, I get your point. If you do the first one, then you'll probably already get
also doing the second one.
And if you kill so much that it then makes like getting the second one not possible late.
Right.
I mean, actually, no, because then you could charge something. Because if the thing is, if you charge with a unit with a frigate and some balloons, if you've got, say, 2 units of balloon boys, and then the first unit of balloon boys kills that enemy unit, do the frigate and the second unit of balloons get to fight? They get to pile in, but do they actually get to use a fight ability?
Yes.
Yes. They get to use a fight ability even if they're not in combat.
Correct.
Because they can pile in, which is part of the fight, isn't it? So,
piling in is fight, isn't it? Yeah.
So,
pile in is one aspect of the fight ability. So if you if your unit charged, you get to use the fight ability. Pile in, you've used the fight ability. It's similar. What's the situation now where that happens with the battle tactic? And I can't remember the exact one, but there's a situation where you have to. Was it 2 units have to fight? They don't actually have to swing. Melee attacks to complete it.
Yeah, so there are ways of doing that then, particularly with KO where we don't actually need like lots of targets to be able to charge multiple units in. We just maybe need to get 2 boats to charge or 1 boat. So you could get 2 boats to charge 1 terrain piece and take a load of balloon boys with it,
right?
Or just charge one like 1 unit that's left or something. Like the fact that there's not much stuff alive left helps with this.
If you're bringing a frigate and 12 engine riggers with you, and you charge a faction terrain piece or an endless spell, and you're the underdog, you're only down by 1, and half your dudes are in friendly territory, and then you charge a manifestation, you're good. Or let me see the wording. There is at least 1 friendly unit on the battlefield, and at least half friendly units on the battlefield. He's a fight. Yeah, I mean,
the problem is the underdog bit, because if you do this on your comeback, your big comeback turn, and you kill a whole bunch of stuff, are you still the underdog after that turn? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, depends on your other cards and how many points you are behind, doesn't it? But there might be some like planning you need to do. Be like, okay, well, I won't get that objective there because that would push me into being the same points as you as equal, so that it stops me getting 5 points next turn. Because you need to make sure you're the underdog. Okay. And then if your opponent is taking this, I feel like it's probably quite easy for my opponent to get the first one.
Of course. What's the point of including the caveat that you need at least 1 friendly unit on the battlefield? I don't understand.
Because
why?
In theory, if you've got no units on the battlefield and you're the underdog, you can say, well, if I've got no units on the battlefield, I have to get at least 0 units to fight.
at least half your. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. All right. All right.
So
You could
it's
still,
just-
you could technically still complete that if you were tabled.
You get tabled, and you're like, well, half a 0 is 0, so
Yeah. Okay. All right. That makes sense.
It
I was
does
trying to
also
figure it out.
It's weird that it also says rounding up, but
Yeah. Half of 0 is 0. Rounding up, still 0.
still 0.
It's like they're like, how do we stop this? Oh, you could do this, or you could do this. We'll just do both. Both of these will stop this. But, I mean, or it stops you then, like, bringing a unit back, or whatever. Like, I don't know. And you can have units in the sky, so you get to the point and you've got no units left except for ones in the sky. Then, in theory, you can't do this one that turn.
I think the next card is going to be very interesting.
I think the next one is cool. So the next one is Scouting Force.
Yeah.
So this one...
This is a doable... This looks good.
This is one of the other ones where you need to read some stuff before you read the...
Oh, are we going to give a rating scale for the last one real quick? I'm sorry. I pushed us... I think this is I think this is yellow.
For Thunderers, red. For a double frigate list, yellow. I guess.
And then yeah, absolutely.
I think it could potentially be green for because
I think so
each
too.
quarter, it's not that bad.
The thing is, at least when I've had my games with my double frigate list, there have been games where by turn. There was one game, turn 2, where I had tabled my opponent. Turn 3, if things are going well, the opponent has very little left, and it's actually difficult for me to secure battle tactics. And so master strategy is certainly doable. So yeah, for red for Thunderer list, green, yellow for
green and yellow.
Yeah.
Because I think if my opponent is on an objective, it means they probably control it.
Correct.
Like if they do some teleport shenanigans, they take the objective off me or something. And then, but if I charge in there and if I've got the objective, it's probably because I killed them and they're not on it anymore. rather than that I've outnumbered them.
Right. Correct. Yeah. Very rarely are you just on an objective, not engaged in a fight, but it's being contested by both players. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like Mega Gargants where they're sitting on an objective and there's 20 guys there. But I count as 30 million. So there you go. So cool. So the next one, Scouting Force.
Yeah.
So the way this works is the start of the battle. Every friendly infantry unit or cavalry unit that is not a hero, wholly within friendly territory, becomes a scout unit. So if you deploy them off the board, they don't become scouts. Important to note. You can't put them in the sky of a ship. So that is basically all your Balloon Boys, Thunderers, and Arkanauts.
Yes.
Because it can't be heroes.
Not gun haulers.
Can't be gun haulers. Infantry or cavalry. And basically everything in KO is infantry other than the boats and the heroes. And then you cannot complete this battle tactics with scout units that are in combat. So all of these things basically are, they don't say it on them, but you just have to not be in combat. And replacement units that replace scout units are also scout units, which doesn't matter for KO.
No recursion.
But it does matter for some other armies if you're playing against it. So the first one is, you complete this battle tactic at the end of your turn if there are 3 or more friendly scout units wholly outside friendly territory. So move out of your territory.
Simple.
I'm going to say on 8 of the battle plans, that's easy.
Yes.
4 of the battle plans is harder than you think. This is a bit like Caesar Center, because it's requiring you to move forwards out of your territory, but you have to move further forwards than Caesar Center, because Caesar Center you could be 3 inches away from the center. Now you've got to go past that, and depending on the footprint of your unit is how far further you got to go. So Arkanauts, you could maybe get them out of the territory in a line that's 1 inch deep, couldn't you?
Right.
But something with bigger bases is harder, and if you've got to do 2 rows or something, you can't do that with Arkanauts actually, because you've got to be within range of 2 2 models. But you need to basically cross that center line and be wholly in outside your territory. You need to get closer to the opponent. So if you're doing this turn 1, you're inviting a counter charge unless you can go somewhere on the battlefield but you're not directly opposite them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. If you can go off to the side and complete this battle tactic that's not directly in front of their hammer unit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just like you can't do just like you can't do this with that are units that are in the sky. You can't turn them into scout units. A lot of Nurgle players got excited about this one with a lot of fly lists. Because they're cavalry and the affliction cyst where you can set them up, you can redeploy them in enemy territory, but they have to be in your territory in order to count as scout units. But there's a sub faction that allows you to just take all your flies and put them outside of 9 inches of your opponent. But now your whole army has no scout units, so it's like, oh damn it, yeah. You got to be careful on your army specific situations on how you can apply scouts.
So it's certainly doable. I think there's 4 missions where you do have that lengthwise deployment where the territory goes to the middle, and because you're 9 inches away from each other's territory, if you get wholly within, you're probably then giving your opponent a 7-inch charge, unless it's you're going up against opposite a screen or something, or finding that diagonal or something where you're not that. Where there's a gap,
or you're up in their face and you redeploy away.
Well, yeah, but you can't redeploy away from a counter charge.
Oh,
for 2 CP.
Right.
And you remember you had to not be in combat, so
right.
So that's the issue with it. We do have an advantage on this, I think, a bit, because getting outside your territory, if you've got to get it's 9 inches, because it's wholly outside, you need to probably be moving at least 12 to do it. But because we can transport units with a boat, actually we've gotten a bit of an advantage there. Like Fire Slayers are going to have a hell of a time with this.
Fire Slayers just don't even bother.
Fire Slayers have a hell of a time with any of these battle tactic cards. To be honest with you, just saying.
Yeah. To be fair, but a lot of armies, like if you're looking at a unit of guys with 6-inch movement, they're not getting there. Whereas getting to within 3 inches of the center was far more achievable for a lot of people. And I've seen people trying to do seize the center and be like, right, okay, well, I've got these 3 units and I just need 2 of them to make the run roll. But that's to get within 3 inches, not to get wholly outside the territory.
Right.
So it's harder than you think on some of these missions, I think, to get wholly outside your territory.
But in general, very achievable for a highly mobile army that rapidly redeploys its scout units.
Yeah, I think KO has an advantage on this one.
100%. This is going to be one of the mainstay. If, in my opinion, early season take, this card is going to be a mainstay of Kharadron Overlords armies.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I think this one and the Ghyran, the treasure one, those are 2 solid picks for KO.
Mm-hmm. Where your angry neighbor stole your mail, stole your Amazon package, and you got to go get it back.
Yeah,
before they eat it.
So that first one is certainly doable, especially on 8 of the missions, because it's okay, well, I just move into friendly territory.
Yeah,
I probably moved. And I'm looking at this one and thinking, how do I get 3 units to do this? And I could all I have to do is change my unit of 10 Thunderers to 2 units of 5. And then all it means is I move my Ironclad forwards and put the same stuff forwards that I would have done before. I haven't even got to take extra units. And I haven't got to risk my balloon boys. I mean, certainly, and I can, it's an easy one. If you've got a couple of ships, moving some units, it's doable. Okay. So then the next one is you have to get 3 or more objectives or terrain features that you control in any combination are contested by scout units. And those objectives or terrain features must be within enemy territory, but not wholly within.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. I mean, again, This is something very, very achievable. Obviously, there is contingent on the flow of the battle and everything, but not saying it's easy, but it is a very plausible scenario that this is easily achievable by the way our army functions.
Yeah, it's the fact it's terrain features, and they like that just opens it up to like potentially 14 things on the battlefield that you need to control.
That the enemy unit is going to be huddled around, and you want to be attacking anyway.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, well, you're huddled around that bit of terrain, so I can't see you, so I'll just charge you.
Wipe you out, and then, hey, look at that. I completed it. Yeah.
And they don't have to even, you don't even have to be, your units don't have to be in enemy territory. It just has to be the terrain piece or the objective is as well.
Right.
So, again, a perfectly doable one.
And by the way, contested.
Yes.
By friendly scout units, not controlled.
Oh, but just say that we need to control them.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I say yes, I see that.
Yes. So we need to control them and have scout units on them.
But you can control them because your ships count as 5 or your ironclad counts as 10, and they just have to have a scout unit within combat
also
range.
there.
Yeah, exactly.
Does
that ever happen where you have ironclad or a frigate next to a terrain feature, but you also have a scout unit nearby? Like it never happens, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, Kron, I interrupted you.
So, it's a doable one, basically.
Oh,
okay.
Very doable. Very happens throughout the normal course of your gameplay, I would say.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. It's basically take their lands, but with 3 terrain pieces,
and also including objectives.
Yes, which you want to be taking anyway,
right?
At some point. So it's an easy sort of turn 3-1 or turn 2-1. Like you could easily do this at some point. And because it's like multiple, and because you don't be like, I want to do this terrain piece there. You don't have to pick anything. It makes it harder for your opponent to be like, okay, well, I'm going to teleport over there then. That sort of thing. And then the last one is you have to have a friendly scout unit that was not set up this turn. It's contrasting a terrain feature that you control that is wholly within enemy territory and is more than 6 inches from friendly territory.
So no transport skyfarers with this one.
Yes, and no charging frigate assault boats.
Right. This is the end of the game. You're actually just moving your engine riggers.
So this is the one where our things sort of count against us. Our tricks count against us because the frigate or the moving with the boats just counts as a setup, which is a bit of a shame. We need to be planning ahead for that one. But
yeah,
it's just one terrain piece in enemy territory.
Hollywood's in enemy territory, yeah.
And you don't even have to control it. It's just contesting it. And you don't pick it.
And it's the last one, so it's not one you have to worry about in the middle of the fight. This can be like turn 5, turn 4.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fly one of your Endrigo units off and just boop, tap it.
The only thing is the terrain piece has to be more than 6 inches from enemy territory. And depending on who wins to roll off and stuff, friendly territory, is you can be a little bit tricky with how you place terrain.
Right.
So like, oh, well, it needs to go here roughly according to the battle plan map. But
if you're defender, and you've taken this and you're setting up terrain, make sure you're setting up those pieces on the map that are more than 6 inches outside your territory.
Yeah, because it's very easy to the maps tell you where it has to be, but there's some wiggle room because they say like a medium terrain piece is 8 inches up to 8 inches by 12, so it's a rectangle, but they give you a circle like place of where it is, so you rotate it 90 degrees, and it's either goes within 6 inches of friendly territory or away from it, or
correct.
Do you know what I mean?
Correct.
There's some gamesmanship that can be had with this one in deployment that could later mess people up. And
our army's lore and narrative does not allow us to be gamey or take advantage of loopholes. So
Yeah. Oh, we've got Flying Dutchman's in the chat. Hi to you.
Sir,
Long time
hello.
watcher of the show. God, it's like being in second edition. Flying Dutchman.
I think this card, despite the many caveats to secure these, especially strike and domination, this is going to be a mainstay of most KO armies.
Yeah, I'm looking at picking, like, this is probably what I'm going to take.
Yeah, 100%.
And then it's like what goes with it, I think.
And then a card like the Angry Amazon Thief card, where you have both objective and terrain control based missions, but also kill missions. Those are that's kind of, because you don't want all kill, you don't want all control, you want a nice mixture of both. For Kharadron Overlords specifically. Maybe if you're orcs or whatever, then you're just going to want all kill, right? But for us, you're going to want a mixture of both.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think the battle tactics, at least for a generic list, like a generic KO list, pretty solid. Obviously, if you're building something funky, you can try something different, but yeah.
Okay. One last thing about this one, which Day Delore mentioned in the chat, which basically is plan ahead on this one.
Yes,
is you can leave something there to get around the not set up thing in turn 4 and then get it in turn 5.
It can't be a hero, sorry.
Yeah, it won't be able to be a hero, but an infantry unit, or you can leave some Arkanauts or a unit of Balloon Boys, and use that to give things. Something else to mention about these ones is Balloon Boys. You get the value out of them when a frigate charges. Like, it's because you get the strike first. It doesn't matter if their units are 6s or 3s. In theory, unless you want to use all-out attack. But there's a negative now for all-out attack. So is there a bonus now to like taking multiple units of 3 other than your drops? So that you can have some hang around places and one of them goes and captures a terrain piece and stuff like that.
That's really interesting.
It's just it's the fact that it's going to mess up, push you to higher drops. That's going to be potentially the issue. It certainly makes it easier to get some of these, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Just gives you more flexibility. So, because if you've got 2 units of 6, if you push one of them to two units of 3, so you've still got 12 guys, you could just charge 9 in somewhere, and then the other 3 go off somewhere else, and you've not lost that much output.
Also, something to consider that's very specific to KO is that by the time everybody is going to be using these in tournaments or casual games, you're going to get 3 months, 4 months before we have a new book, and everything's going to change. Whereas the majority of factions, you have what you've got is what you've got for the whole year. But we are on the horizon of getting potentially a gameplay redefining structure to our army, potentially.
Yeah. True.
Likely getting a terrain piece, likely getting a priest, maybe with manifest, because almost they're saying that like every army is going to have a terrain feature and some sort of manifestation.
Okay.
So
I mean, with this existing, is having a terrain piece potentially a bad thing?
Well,
if other people are taking that?
I know for a fact that when I'm playing Maggotkin of Nurgle, I do not set up my terrain piece because it is only a liability and does almost nothing for the army.
If you have it there with you, do you have to deploy it?
Almost done. If you do not, from the wording that I've seen, you do not have to set up your terrain piece.
No.
At least I know Maggotkins you do not have to. And I absolutely almost every game choose not to deploy my Feculent Normal.
Yeah. Okay. Let's give this one a rating.
Green.
Yeah.
Yep, green. Matt, do you need to go or do you want to stay for the last one?
I was just about to say I wish I could stay, but this is the one I wanted to talk about because
Scout Force,
yeah. So, but
it's a good one.
I do have to fly high.
Okay. Oh well, it's glad to have you, Matt.
Thank you, sir. And everybody in the chat, thank you for contributing. Everybody watching, thank you for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. And I will certainly be on Discord. And hopefully, if Lee continues to have poor judgment, be on future shows.
Well, it was great to have you, Matt. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of your show.
All right, so we've got one more to go.
One more. Last one. Attuned to Ghyran. So the first one is Sacred Centrality. It's basically Seize the Center.
Yeah, the first one is just Seize the Center.
Yeah, we know what that is. Seize the Center. 2 units within 3 inches of the center of the battlefield that are not in combat.
Very easy to do with KO.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's the next one that's tricky.
Well, the other thing to remember about this one is if you're doing the Scouts one, if you get them wholly outside your territory and the two of the units you get wholly outside your territory also happen to be within 3 inches of the center, those units are getting two battle tactics in one go. Like, you just be like, okay, if I move my ship there, transport 3 units. Oh, look, I've got 2 battle tactics from doing that one thing.
Yeah.
As long as you don't go too far outside of your territory. So that's an interesting thing you can get. Like, there's some synergy there between those. But the next one, we mentioned this earlier a little bit. There's some issues with the wording. So you need to have 2 friendly units retreat. Those units become the lure units. And then you have to have 2 different units that use a charge ability this turn. And at least one of those units ended the charge move in combat with an enemy unit, which was in combat with one of the lure, which, before the lure units retreated, they were in combat with those.
Yeah, so basically you want them to charge your units in the center there.
Yeah.
And then you countercharge, then you retreat those units out of the center.
Yeah.
And you countercharge with your with a frigate. The problem is you're not, you don't really want to retreat as such with those units in the center, because those units in the center are going to be, like imagine Thunderers. The Thunderers shouldn't be retreating; they should be getting yoinked by the Ironclad.
Yeah.
So if Thunderers are actually retreating, then they can't shoot anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that's a ton of your output. And then you can charge in with your frigate and your balloon boys, but the retreating part is not great for us. I don't think it's something.
Well, the other thing is like if they're within 3 inches of the center of the battlefield, that's probably one of the few places where you can shoot something. Like, you get an enemy unit into a location where you are allowed to shoot them, but then you retreat, so you can't. Is awkward. But also there's the whole thing with the frigates, because it's the frigate uses a charge ability, the balloon boys don't. So you need to get 2 frigates to charge, or just charge the balloon boys in normally. So that is a way of doing it. You could charge, say if you've got a frigate that would normally take 12 balloon boys with it, you could charge the frigate in, take 1 unit, and then charge the other balloon boys in normally, and then you can still fight with both of them first, because one of them will be your fight first, and then one of them will be your first normal pick. And then you've got 2, but then that gets around it. I mean, I hope there's an FA that the errata on the frigate ability makes that any balloon boys that go with the frigate count for this, but I don't think it's going to, based off Games Workshop history. But there's some things you could do with this for retreating. Like, you could have one of the units that's in range of the center be a hero, and you're not that bothered if they retreat,
No,
So
but they need to
that's in-
survive
Yeah.
to retreat. And we
I
don't
mean-
really have a hero that's going to live through that kind of stuff.
Mhm. Yeah. It's an awkward one because we generally try and avoid combat, and we're like using our redeploy shenanigans to just make the combat never happen at all.
Yeah. But just based on that second one, I wouldn't really go for this. And the third one is just table your opponent. Like have no enemy units in enemy or neutral in friendly or neutral territory. Like okay.
Yeah.
So table them.
Yeah.
Cool.
They can be in enemy territory. But
Yeah, if you push them back, but as even a single one of them is just like poking a toe out of that territory, which they absolutely can and will do. Nah, this isn't one. I don't rate this one. This is red. The first one's not okay. Maybe yellow because the first one's good. The first one's easy, but after that you're just not happening.
The only way I really see us doing this one is having some sort of regiment of renown that's an anvil, like the OBR one or the dwarf one, and you push them forwards, and then they get charged but survive, and then because that's the other thing is you've got to survive around a combat to be able to retreat. And yeah, you can have your boat retreat, and then they pick up the guys and that, but you'd have to have 2 boats retreat. If it's just 1 unit retreat, it wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah, nah.
It's hard.
Yeah. Yellow because the first one, but realistically, don't do this.
Yeah,
this isn't KO. I'm sure there's armies that can do it, and if you're playing an army that can do it, just don't give them a chance to have units that can retreat in their turn. You know, just stay back, shoot them, and if you have to charge something, make sure it dies.
Yeah, there's a good point from the chat, which is if you can charge with a frigate and 2 units of balloons, and then Brock makes a normal charge. Yeah, it's the retreating bit. It's the hard bit, I think.
Yeah, charging not so bad. Retreating, very bad. Or you've got an army that can retreat and charge still. I guess there's factions that can have this, but
yeah, retreat and charge is not that great because it has to be other units that do the charge. Yeah, you can retreat and go somewhere else and charge like in a different place, but you need to have 2. Like the 2 units of charge have to be different units to the 2 units of retreat. So you need at least 4 units on the battlefield to just do this.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, it's a middle game one, so it could be turn 2, but
it's possible. Not for us though.
Yeah, it's not one we really want to be doing. Like if we end a turn, like say if we charge in something and we don't kill it, because that's the other thing here. You charge in, you don't kill something, and the next turn then you do your retreat things or whatever. But if we charge in, don't kill something, then we use power through, we use the Sky Warden's ability, we use Brock's ability, and we're not in combat then. Do you? No, you can't. You don't. I was just thinking there's some shenanigans with faction terrain, but no, there isn't even from that because you can just walk away from those.
Yeah.
You can charge them, but you can't. You don't retreat from them, which is normally a good thing. But I mean, they are something you could charge for 2 units quite easily, but yeah, it's not a good one. Not for KO, I don't think this one. I think yellow is fair because the first one is doable. So do you think the scouting one is the best one for KO?
Definitely scouting, and then generic kill 3 enemy units and just don't take a double. That's the go. That'd be the go for me. And honestly, the scouting one is doable by a few armies. I think it's gonna be a pretty popular combo that people are gonna do.
Yeah. So what did you say was the second one then? Or did you say a second one?
The Ghyran treasure.
Oh, okay, yeah, killing things. Yeah, that one is interesting. I think it's a case of seeing how opponents structure their lists, and will come very much down to the meta and how easy it is to kill things. Because if people are really thinking about it when they write their list, they could very easily stop you from doing it. But people might be so focused on what they're doing to get their own ones that they're not doing that.
Yeah. Just try and go through your battle tactics and try and deny your opponents when you can. But the missions are pretty interesting. We should probably do a show on that as well. And then one on building lists.
Yes, there's an interesting thing about the chat. Cameron mentions that the Sky Warden's ability actually lets you use a retreat ability. It's not. Yeah, if that has the retreat keyword, then that's interesting because you could charge in, and like they don't. Oh, do they have to be in combat at the beginning of the turn? No, you just have to use a retreat ability that turn. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get to use the retreat ability as if it was your movement phase. So you could not be in combat and do it. Actually, okay. So because you just have to make sure you don't kill something with your Sky Wardens. And then you do have to get a 3+ with 2 units.
Yeah. And then have you need to put those Sky Wardens in the center, have them not die, and then retreat out after.
Yeah, well, it doesn't even have to go to the center. They had to charge something. They could charge something, not kill it, and then use their ability at the end of the turn, and that counts as a retreat.
Oh yeah, so you could do it in one turn all by yourself.
Yes,
okay.
But you'd have to have 4 units charged then, because the units that retreat have to not be units that charged. The units that count as having used the charge ability have to be. And then the thing is, the units that charge have to end the charge move in combat with an enemy unit from which the lower units retreated, but they can't, in theory, do that because I guess by the end of your turn that will be the case. They will have ended their charge move, but at the time they ended their charge move, nothing would have retreated. There wouldn't be any lower units.
Yeah.
So that's I think that one. If you did it that way, you might have people crying foul and go into a TO potentially as well. But that's interesting. It's not like a really doable thing because you have to not kill something, but also then survive the fight back, so that you can still retreat. Which is interesting. Yeah. Go back to what we're talking about. The treasures one, the snacks one, is gonna really depend on your opponent's list and what they can do to stop you killing stuff. I kind of like which one was it? Yeah, Wrathful cycles I think could be my second pick.
I suppose, especially if you have you're gonna use frigate. You're gonna have at least one frigate now with the obscuring terrain.
Mm-hmm. It's just control more objectives than your opponent. It gives me a thing to do if they make me go first, and then if I don't go first, then I could be the underdog. So I think that could be a doable one.
Yeah, but just killing 3 units is so
killing
easy.
3 units is doable as well. It's just got to be the right units.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So let us know in the comments which 2 you're thinking about picking with your KO. And then we are gonna come back at some point. I think we'll probably split the battle plans into 2 different shows. Potentially, we'll see how timings go with well, not timings, calendars go, because they could be long shows. And if we want to talk about how we're going to deploy on those battle plans and stuff a little bit, that could start getting a bit long. But we're going to do more shows. We'll definitely start looking at some lists as well at some point, because this is going to change up lists, having these battle tactics.
I reckon, yeah.
You're going to need, especially if you're doing the scout one, you're going to need some smaller units. But yeah, if you like the show, please hit like. If you want more content from us in the future, hit subscribe. Use that old bell icon thing. Hit that, because then you get notified when we do a show. Yeah, and leave some comments below on what you're thinking about all the new stuff on the GHB. And of course, thank you to Kron and Matt for joining me for tonight's show, and for everyone that watched. Thanks, everyone.
We'll be back.
We'll be back soon. See you again soon, Skyfarers. Goodbye.